This is the Education Business Podcast for consultants and business owners providing services in schools. I'm Claire Riley, and I'll be sharing how to start, grow and scale your education business. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Education Business Podcast. I'm getting into the swing of things. It's the first time I'm recording since my break over Christmas, so I'm very energized to get going today, and we're going to talk about the power of choosing your response. So this is a mindset tool when it comes to business. When I first started listening to business books, what I didn't expect is that many of them actually cover things about your mind and who you are. And that's why at Education Business Club, we don't just cover the tactical parts of running a business, we also cover the mindset elements as well, because your business can only grow as much as you grow and you understand yourself. And that's why it's important to talk about mindset as well. So over the Christmas period, a thing happened, which I'll talk a little bit about. And what happens a lot in my life now is things will happen and I reflect on it and I take learning from that particular thing based on learning I've already had, and also just either learning on that topic a little bit more deeply, or maybe it reminds me not to go there ever again, if that makes sense. But this particular incident made me think about whether our actions equal our feelings or whether we can choose our feelings. Now, I know the answer to this, and I knew the answer before I did this reflection, but it was a good reminder for me. So I was talking to someone over Christmas and I asked them how the morning had been. And the moment the question left my lips, I knew it was the wrong question to ask. I knew what the answer would be. I knew that I wasn't helping them to see possibility. Now, I'm not saying that was my responsibility, but I am supposed to be somebody who is maybe more enlightened because I'm doing all of this work. And so the response was negative, and I found that difficult, not necessarily because the response was negative. No, it wasn't a good morning, but more because of the example that I've had growing up. So my mum, you might not know this, but she had a difficult childhood, not in the sense of her parents, but in the sense of her health. In fact, she's had quite a difficult life. She was born with a dislocated hip. They didn't spot it. She'd walked on it. So then she had to be in frog plaster. She stood up with that on at 18 months old. So then she had to have it on again. She was pretty much in frog plaster, which is, if you're looking on the video, your legs are kind of like that. But yeah, it would be like an N shape, really. Both legs are at a right angle. And so, it wasn't a great experience for her. Then she had, I think, another operation at 13. She might have had one at 7, I can't remember. But she's had a lot of operations. And then as an adult, she's had pins taken out. She's had pins put in. She's had 3 replacements now. Lots and lots of different things. But she always has had this attitude, really, of you can choose how we feel about something. And, it gets the best of us all at times. I'm not saying that it's always been perfect in our family. But there has been this understanding that you can choose. You can choose. And, thinking back to her mother, my grom, she brought this mindset into the family for my mum, really, because, she was homeless as a 7-year-old and she lived in the park for a year. And that was because at the time she was born of an unmarried mother, and it was in the war, and they would have happily housed her, but then she would have been taken away from her mum, and so they lived in the park on their own. And she actually wrote a poem, a poetry book, and I put it together like a long time ago, maybe back in 2009, not 2019, 2009. And it's funny because Hattie got it off the shelf the other day, and she was just looking through and she was reading some of the poems that my grom had written, and some of them are, about grass, and some of them are about weather, and some of them are about her life and her take on things. And, that's when we find out a little bit more about some of the times that she had. I do know that there was a time when they did have a house, but they drank out of jam jars because that's what they had. And so how does this relate to the question that I asked somebody over the Christmas period? And it's this, it's that you can have what you deem as very little, and you can decide that you should have more, and that can then affect how you feel about things and how you choose to feel about things. So in that circumstance where there's only jam jars to drink out of, you could absolutely think, okay, I should have a glass to drink out of, and because I have a jam jar, life's terrible for me. Or you could choose to think, well, this is a novel experience. Most people have glasses to drink out of, but we get jam jars, and that makes it special. It's a bit like when you're a child, how you really I really wanted anyway, I really wanted to live in a house that had an attic, that had the eaves in with doors, so I could make it into like a special den. There are some people who would not want a house like that because maybe it's too old, or they'd want to knock those out because they'd say that it's a waste of space. But it's all about your perspective, isn't it? It's how you look at it. And so we can choose how we approach these things. And this conversation that I had, it kind of irritated me a little bit because I know there was talk afterwards about how perhaps I didn't understand, which is absolutely not true. I have been involved in a lot of hardship, which is similar really, even at the moment. But the difference is what you choose. And because it was over the Christmas period, it got me thinking about traditions. And I'm somebody who likes to keep a tradition, and I like to make traditions. But just the power of a tradition and what it actually symbolises in terms of choice. Why do people create traditions in the first place? What's the point of them? And the reason why it got me thinking about traditions is that traditions are a choice. They're a choice to do something and feel a certain way about it. And it doesn't matter what that tradition is. You don't have to have money to have a tradition. You could decide that on Christmas morning, you're going to have half a glass of orange juice. And you could make that your Christmas tradition. Now, that might seem a really strange thing, but what happens if you don't have any money? What happens if your health has gone and you can't eat solid food anymore? What if you don't see family and there are no traditions that other people might do that seem to make sense to you? You can make a moment special, no matter how able you are, just by doing something like having a special drink on that morning. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You can choose to look at a small thing and really take value from it. You can make that valuable. You can make that important. So isn't it funny how just a small interaction like that can make you reflect on so many things? It made me think about my grandparents. It made me think about my mum. It made me think about the life that they led and the lessons that they've taught me. And it also made me think about really getting down to the detail. In some ways, it's kind of like lowering your expectation. If you lower your expectation, you'll be much happier because you will be delighted by what's happening. Lots of people say, people who are not happy, their expectations are too high because you can never meet those expectations. But sometimes events occur, and if we're reflective, we can end up going on a little bit of a journey to remind ourselves of maybe things that we've forgotten. That was helpful to me, just to be reminded of choice and how we can choose how we respond to people, how we can choose whether or not we have a good time. We can choose whether or not we have a good time. We can choose to be happy with the progress that we've made in the past year, or we can choose not to be. We can choose to feel threatened by competitors. We can choose how we respond to the way that we feel our team members might be reacting to us or speaking to us. because nothing has meaning except for the meaning that we give it. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is that, business is such an emotional journey. If you don't believe that, you're not doing it right. It's so emotional because as you grow your business, you expose more of yourself. You have to meet yourself. You have to face yourself. The fears that you had, you've got to work through them. You've got to grow. You can't just stay stagnant and grow a massive business. You just can't do it. Not even a massive one. You can't grow a successful business, one where you're not going to be that person who has a job for life, unless we're willing to grow. So 2 challenges for you from this. 1, what's happened in the past week that's made you think, or should make you think, should make you reflect on how you're being, how other people are being, how you want to be in the future? And the second thing is, what about your expectations? Are you always falling short of your expectations? Could changing that help you feel differently? And can you choose how you feel when you need to react to things, when you need to respond to things? Is there a way to choose to feel differently about events that are happening around you? Because this one little thing is so powerful. It's so powerful. And imagine if you're choosing to feel better, what could that do for your business? How could that help your business grow? Thank you for listening to the Education Business Podcast. To get more information to grow your business, sign up at educationbusinessclub.co.uk.